بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما.
So the next thing, we'll talk about the resources in terms of hardware and the software resources you might be aware of. I'll quickly give an options. As you know, you need to have a computer or a laptop. Obviously, laptop is something a more preferable option because of the additional, you have a power battery where in case if there is any kind of power failure, you can still continue for 15-20 minutes or more than that. Unless you have some internet issue, of course. So again, flexibility. It gives you more flexibility because you don't need to be sitting in one place. So if you have to deliver any seminars, if you want to deliver any classes, it's a kind of flexible option you get. That's something preferable. And the configuration wise, it varies the configuration. Like minimum, I recommend you to have at least i5 with 8 GB RAM. That's something recommended, a minimum, because you also will be using some editing tools which require some additional memory, but you can still manage with i3 4 GB RAM. That's something manageable, but something this is better. And also you have to consider the softwares what you will be using, because there are some softwares, like we have our trainers, like some people teach Microsoft trainings. So they use some kind of virtual softwares which requires high RAM. So they require like 16 GB RAM kind of thing, depending upon how many machines they run, virtual machines. So like that, everyone have their own requirements. So they might be aware of, but in terms of recording, in terms of these options, this is something a minimum. This is something a preferable option. So anything higher is always recommended. And calculate the processing and the memory capabilities of your own additional softwares, what you use for trainings. Accordingly, you have to calculate. Like if it is SAP, then you need, of course, high-end servers. So if you're teaching any SAP kind of courses, they require more processing capabilities to run those tools. So high-speed internet, obviously high-speed broadband internet. So not your 4G, even though it is high speed, but basically the broadband connection is more reliable, which is something recommended. So you don't want any drop of your voice or any other things while doing the classes. So make sure that you have a high speed internet. Recommended to have at least 5 to 10 Mbps of line. So minimum, I think nowadays, mostly they offer 5 to 10 Mbps easily. Now, this will vary based on the cities what you are based in, the costing. So we can check with your local service providers and get those details. So headphones and mic. So obviously you can use this headphones. So recommended you use some kind of USB specific headphones. You can search with specific, mostly you can buy it on Amazon. Probably if you go and search, based on the ratings, you can decide which one you actually want to go. But there are plenty of options in different ranges. So you'll find some different options here. So if you just search for USB headset, so mostly you have to go with the headset with a proper mic. So you should have this mic facilities and check the ratings. Accordingly, you have to plan. So this is something initially you can plan. The one which I'm using, I don't use the mic. I will be using a different mic, which is commonly used for recording. So the one which I use is this one, CAD U37. This is a kind of a mic which normally used for recording kind of thing. So that is something which I use here. So slowly, once you become more professional, then you can add this thing. So initially it's not something required, but as you progress, as you start getting more professional, then you can plan these things in the future setups. But initially, even the one which I'm suggesting you, initially the same options I used initially. So it's not like I have directly got these setups. So initially, as per this, you can plan these options. So while doing this, make sure that you have proper settings, those things. Check the ratings, accordingly you can plan. A digital writing pad is something recommended. Of course, you can still deliver without that. You can just use your mouse to draw few things here and there, but that doesn't give a professional look. Okay, so if I just use my mouse here, so basically you can see this is how I'm drawing. If I want to draw the same thing with my writing pad, this is how I draw. So we can see the difference clearly over there. I want to draw one router switch as per my subject. Okay, that's the difference. So recommended. And also you'll find some different writing pads on Amazon as well. I'm not sharing a specific link. Initially, I used to have an eyeball writing pad, the one which I used earlier as per my initial budgets. But I think now the eyeball is something it's hard to find. So the Wacom company, that's the one which I'm using, not the same what I'm showing you here, but that's different. But there are different ranges in that depending upon the size. There is a Wacom company, and there are plenty. Even if you search a little bit, do a little bit research on the YouTube channel before you buy, you can plan. But those will be very high ranges. So you will get these things approximately in between 4 to 5,000 range writing pads. The one which I'm using is high one, means it's not this one, but I use these things initially. Okay, so I'm suggesting the options which are initially recommended. So check the reviews and the ratings. You can plan. Initially, before this Wacom, I used to have this eyeball digital. That's one of my favorite digital writing pad, which I have used for a long time. Still, it's there with me. My kids use that one, but kind of, now as per the new things, the Wacom is something which is I have to go for. But I couldn't find this eyeball again, even from eyeball website. But that is something I have used for more than 10 years. Now, recently I have shifted to this Wacom writing pad. The other one, the model is different completely. I think the one which I'm using. So if I quickly open up, let me see I'm not sure about the model, but okay, so it's a kind of Intro. I think that's a device, Intro Pro M. That's the kind of model. Okay, fine. You will have different ranges. I don't want to get into that, but anything 4 to 5,000 is something recommended. And a USB hub, obviously you need to have this USB hub. It will cost you around in between 400 to 500 USB hub for the PCs. You can go with anyone which is having at least 4 ports. The higher you require, the more you can go. Okay, so it's up to you. I used 4 ports option. My preferred one, my favorite, which I use, I couldn't see here, but the one I think I got in my presentation, this one which I normally use. But you can go with anyone. Check the ratings accordingly. You can plan, and make sure that when you're checking, the ratings also should be high. Okay, so these things you can plan. Of course, different ranges are there. Accordingly, you can see. So as you progress, maybe in the future, you connect some hard days, you connect plenty of things. When you start connecting, you can increase these things. The other things like the softwares. Now, softwares part, you don't need to worry. Most of the softwares I'll be sharing on a Google Drive. So there's nothing you don't need to purchase. Initially, I have the license of few of them, like Ink2Go is something I'll be sharing. The other one which I'm using is Epic Pen. Epic Pen, you can use some trial version. I'll come to this. These are the 2 different softwares you can use. I used to use initially Ink2Go, which is something I used very long time. But now the Epic Pen is the best tool I can say now. And once I changed my writing pad, the change to Wacom, the Ink2Go was not working properly because of the pixels and a lot of technical issues. So then I realized that, the Ink2Go is not not used for high professional drawings. So you need to switch to Epic Pen. Then I had to get a license for that. So the license you get more options. I'll just come to this a little bit later next. Zoom meeting, of course, Zoom meeting is something you can download, and I'll talk about this in a separate session. So the free version supports 40-minute session. You can also go license for that. We'll talk about this in a separate session. Of course, MS Office software. I'll share the MS Office softwares on a Google Drive. You can install. WhatsApp, Telegram, you'll find on the internet. WhatsApp, Telegram, I recommend you to start using them on your own machines, like computers, web WhatsApp, those kind of things. Because phone, good, you can use everything on phone, but when you're using them on your computer or laptop, that gives you more flexibility to interact with your students, sending the messages, replying them, sending the files, content. There are plenty of things you can do when you are using them on your computer. So I'll share you those options. Additionally, I'll show you some basics of Adobe Photoshop. Photoshop is something required to create the images. Probably creating some images. Let me show you some of my sample images, which I create for my own class promotions. Now I have a professionals working for me, graphic designers who will be doing, but there are a few things which I want to do. I'll do in a quick way. If you see this image, these are specific images which I create on my own to do any kind of class promotions. So I'll be teaching you some basic options where you can promote your own classes with some kind of content and a background, and you can do these things if you don't want a professional graphic designer to do. I recommend you can interact with any professional graphic designer, but that's something initially will be difficult. So I'll be showing you some basic options on that as well. So I'll share the software as well. Camtasia for video editing options. So the software part, nothing to worry. Mostly Ink2Go license, I'll share. Epic Pen, I have just one license, so I have to use it. So if you want license, you can go with online purchase as well, but trial version will be sufficient. So these are the hardware and the software resources what you require.